I want to talk about Harry Potter today, and there's a reason for that. Last night, I was listening to one of my, I don't know, political channels that I usually listen to at night once in a while. I don't want to call this channel out because this isn't really a challenge or a direct attack on them. I still love the channel, but I just want to bring out something that they were talking about. So this channel is like they lean a little bit towards the right, and they're very religious. They're into Christianity and stuff. I'm not really into that much, but I was raised Catholic, but I went against that. I read the Bible on my own for like some of it, not all of it. I had my mom tell me about a lot of it as well. But I've kind of went my own way. But I still can listen to people who are Christians and have their beliefs and stuff, because some of them have very good points. But anyway, they were talking about how they didn't let their kids read like Harry Potter back in the day, because when they were reading through the book, they've come to the conclusion that the Harry Potter books are amoral. In other words, there's no morality. It's like everybody is just a vacuous vessel that has no morality. When I heard that, it just made my head kind of like, hey, you know what? That's a good subject. I think I want to talk about that a little bit, just to change it up a bit. But I'm going to have to say, well, first of all, this video is also going to be directed towards the viewer. So I have a question for any people who are watching this and like Harry Potter, or maybe you don't like Harry Potter, whatever the reason may be. Do you think that the Harry Potter books and movies, are they amoral? Are they completely vacuous of any lessons, morality? Are they a complete waste of anybody's time? Now, I want you guys to just tell me your opinions about it, whatever they may be, and don't worry about political spectrums, because on this channel, even though I'm more towards the right, honestly, but I am open to other people. I could talk to people who are on the other side. And when I say I'm on the right, I don't mean like about voting or that stuff. I just mean in terms of how I think on some issues. But nonetheless, I don't really believe in the political system of left and right. I'm just using that as a shortcut because I don't know what else to call myself. I really don't. I really am just consider myself, I don't know, independent maybe, if I have to be honest. But I don't support the voting system, so I don't know. But off of that topic, I just want to say my opinion. And don't let my opinion about Harry Potter being amoral or not dissuade you from expressing what you think of Harry Potter. But I just want to tell you what I think. I disagree. I completely disagree that it's amoral. Completely. I didn't do a whole write-up about this like I usually do for my videos. I just jotted down like my ideas about why I disagree on it, right? So like, okay, so if we just go straight to the characters, for example, they're not these like empty vessels that could be filled up. Or like if you're playing Halo, right? And remember when everybody used to say at the time, oh, we don't want you to see how Master Chief looks like, because when you play Halo, anybody could be Master Chief, you know? Like they wanted the player to be Master Chief. Can you really say that about the characters in Harry Potter? That anybody could be these characters? I mean, I suppose so. I suppose you could put yourself in their shoes, and as you're reading the book, you could kind of believe you're in the story, right? But these characters have their predetermined personalities, codes, and ways of handling situations. So, like, I mean, just to simply put, I just said like Ron, right? Ron is basically loyalty, loyalty to Harry and Hermione, to their friendship. Harry, I would argue, is a personified version of duty. Okay, and I only bring up this word duty because we're talking about morality. And the channel I watched last night said like, oh well, they prefer stories where it's about honor, duty, yada yada yada, and that's great. I'm not shitting on that, but so I'm bringing that up on purpose because I would argue that Harry is some of the things that he has to do is a form of duty, and I will explain that. And yes, I know to you immature internet people, duty is a very funny word. Whatever. And I put for Hermione, which is an obvious one, intelligence, but I'll tell you why it's beyond intelligence. It's much more important than just she's a smart girl who knows everything. She's much more than that. I say Hermione is basically like Ron and Harry's compass, their guide, their light, whatever, however you want to look at her. Without Hermione, Ron and Harry, they wouldn't have made it. They wouldn't have made it multiple times. I mean, whether you go to the first book, the second book, she always would be the one where just where they're figuring something out, she gets them through it, you know? Or like she'll even sometimes be calling them out on their behavior, right? Like, I think it was Goblet of Fire. I'm trying to remember the funny quote she said to Ron, where no, I might be wrong, but there were it was Order of the Phoenix, where they were talking about that girl that Harry Potter liked, the Chinese girl. I forgot her name. Sorry, I haven't read the books in a year or so. I'm a little stale on that, but They didn't understand why she was feeling this, feeling that, feeling this. And she tells like Ron, you have the emotional range of a teaspoon, you know? So that's the quick example that I could think off of the top of my head. Like, she would kind of, tell them how they are and be almost a reflection a little bit sometimes. And like I said, be an intellectual guidance. Like in the first movie, she got them through the... to get to the Sorcerer's Stone, if you guys remember that, when they were getting, if she wasn't there to figure out like about the those plants that were choking them to death, that you needed to shoot them with the sunlight to kill them so they can get out of it. She used Lumos, you know, and yeah, of course, then you had Ron. He did chess, and his loyalty to his friends, Ron's loyalty to Hermione and Harry made him, well, he didn't die when he did this, but when he did that move on the chessboard at the end, he sacrificed himself so that Harry could go forward, right? So that was because of his loyalty. And going back to Hermione being the guiding light for Ron and Harry, again, when she saved them from the those plants in the dark. What was it? Remember, it was Lumos, and it was the light, the sun that got rid of them. What was it? Devil's weed, devil something. That's what was strangling them. Well, anyway, her light opened the way for them to go forward. So that kind of goes on what I'm saying. And Chamber of Secrets, she was the one where she got frozen by the basilisk, but right before then she was able to guide them to, it's the basilisk, that's what you guys got to look, Chamber of Secrets, you know. I don't have to go into too details if you guys, most of you probably either read the books or even watch the movies, but if you haven't read the books, I have to say you're missing out, because there's a lot of stuff that's taken out. I would say the first two movies do a pretty good job capturing most of the book, right? But then after that, like from movie 3 to 8, they cut out a lot of stuff that you'll only see in the books, and there's some really great stuff in the books. So anyway, what else did I jot down here? Let me see. So I also just made like a quick list of what each movie kind of represented in my perspective, what I thought. Just very simple here. if you guys want to analyze what I'm saying, go right ahead in the comments and go deeper than I will. But like I said, like for example, the first movie, Sorcerer's Stone or Philosopher's Stone, wherever you're reading it and whatever print one you read, right? I think that movie in itself, the whole thing is about power versus love, or love over power. And of course that theme is solidified by the end of the book when Dumbledore is telling Harry about, oh, this scar on your head, your mother protecting you from Voldemort, that was love, Harry, love. And of course, in the later books, it's more complicated than just love. I mean, she literally does, when she dies, she does like a spell, and that's what protected him. It was like a certain thing. But, you know, the first book is really about their childhood. And again, right, the entire series in itself, right, there are movies and books that really have one kind of overarching theme, but the Harry Potter books have a lot of things going on. It's very multifaceted if you think about it. From book 1 to the end, right, it's a coming of age story, but it's got all of these other things throughout it as you're going on, right? Like I said, so like the first movie, Power over Love, then the second movie, Chamber of Secrets. I don't know if this is a good way of putting it. The best thing I could say for that was it's about not judging a book by its cover, or false witness on your neighbor. And I bring that up because, like I said, the channel I was listening to last night was a Christian channel. They're into the religious stuff. So I'm saying the second movie is actually almost talking about bearing false witness against your neighbor and why it's wrong. If you guys don't understand what I mean by that, if you've watched it, you guys remember Hagrid? Well, there's this character named Hagrid, and you find out when he was young, he was blamed for the death of a student at the school. And it obviously turned out it wasn't actually Hagrid. It was Tom Riddle, a.k.a. Voldemort, right? But, you know, it's kind of telling you, not like Hagrid is a half man, half giant. He's got this big beard. He looks like an imposing figure, but he isn't that. He isn't a bad guy. He isn't any of that. He's the sweetest thing on all of Hogwarts, right? So, I mean, and Chamber of Secrets has many more themes to that, but I just wanted to emphasize that just for like a Christian channel and to kind of argue against what they were saying a little bit. And they prove that Hagrid was innocent. And of course Hagrid gets in trouble a couple times that they prove his innocence in later books as well. But yeah, like that. And you know, Prisoner of Azkaban, the third one, just not I don't want to get too much into that. But I would argue that that book is about family connection, and what did I put here? Yeah, it's like finding your home. And Harry, you know, because the previous books, Harry lived his first like 10, 11 years at his uncle and aunt's Petunia's house with that his annoying fucking brother Dudley, right? So, I mean, he was kind of an outcast, an outlier. He didn't belong, you know? So, it was really, he found his place at Hogwarts, yes. And Hermione and Ron were like the brother and sister that he never had. But, and Prisoner of Azkaban, when he finds out that Sirius Black isn't the horrible murderer that killed that helped Voldemort kill his parents, like they thought. Everybody had it that he was the killer. He was what's the word? He was falsely accused and set up by Peter Pettigrew, who was the little rat. They find out that Ron was carrying with him. The little rat. I got him right here, I think. Scabbers was his name? Yes, Scabbers. So you found out Scabbers over here was a fucking guy in disguise, hiding this whole time. Peter Pettigrew. Peter Pettigrew falsely accused and set up Sirius Black as a murderer, and then he spent a decade at the prison of Azkaban, which is a horrible place to be. If you all read the book, you know what it is, right? So, number 3, you meet Sirius Black, and Sirius Black is really the last vestige, the last connection to Harry's mother and father that he never knew, right? So this was Harry's last chance to kind of get that connection, you know? And if you remember at the end, they were saying, how would you like to live with me, Harry? And I'm botching this, I'm paraphrasing it off of the top of my head. And Harry wanted to live with him, and it was so beautiful, so wonderful that Harry found almost, I don't know if he would have been like a father figure, maybe, but it was like that last, like, living thing, that last thing that was with his parents, and he could reach out, and of course that doesn't last, but what you get from that feeling was that deep inner want of a family, of someone who accepts you, and you have that connection, because for 10, 11 years he lived with Petunia, the uncle, and Dudley, and he was treated like a goddamn second-class citizen. Worse, he was treated like a creature. They stuffed him in a fucking under the staircase. So you really feel that, his connection to Sirius Black in number 3. And of course there's so many other themes in Prisoner of Azkaban, but I want to just emphasize that because it's family stuff, right? Goblet of Fire is a bit more complicated. It's a little, for me, it's harder to simplify because it's actually one of my favorites in the entire series of books. I think it's the fattest book out of them all, too. Yeah, man, yeah. I mean, right next to Order of the Phoenix, it's just a little bit thicker of number 5. But I just wrote for that. Goblet of Fire is betrayal, deception, but most importantly, what Goblet of Fire represents for the whole... I mean, if you were to combine all the 7 books together, it would be one big coming-of-age story with all these other things inside of it. And, everybody always used to talk about hero's journey. Yeah, it's got hero's journey, it's got a bit of this, it's got everything, the Harry Potter books, everything, if you really read it. But what was so important about Goblet of Fire was it was the end of their innocence, their childhood from 1 to 3, and yes, I know Prisoner of Azkaban was a bit dark, but it wasn't as dark until the end of Goblet of Fire. And Goblet of Fire wasn't dark until the end when Voldemort murdered Cedric, right? But it wasn't just for the use of being dramatic, and of course, but it was to symbolize the end of their youth, the end of their innocence. War began. Life and death. This isn't any more serious stuff. And I know you can say, but the basilisk was dangerous. Yeah, damn, the basilisk was dangerous. Yes. But nobody actually, if I recall, I don't think anybody died in number 2, right? Like the kids in number 2, they were just petrified by the basilisk. If I'm wrong, you guys could correct me, right? But Cedric's death really hit home. Harry witnessed his death, right? So this changes Harry. This makes him darker a bit. This makes him grow up really fast, actually. I mean, of course, he went through so much already in the past 3 movies. But now it's for sure. Like, this is serious shit. And then from there, it gets... When you get into the Order of the Phoenix, right? You know what I wrote for Order of the Phoenix? I said, Order of the Phoenix, which is book number 5, right? That's another complicated book, a great book as well. I think it was J.K. Rowling's version of George Orwell's 1984. Now, I don't know if J.K. Rowling read 1984, but we had to read 1984 when I was in high school. And when I was in high school, I read the whole thing, and it went over my head a bit. And then I reread it on my own after, while I was in college, and I really sucked it in. And, it's all in my head now still, like to this day, like another great book. And that's America though. But in England, I don't know if when she was young, I'm sure she probably read it or something, or it. I don't know if it was mandatory reading in England, but Orwell was an English writer, and I know that's not his real name. His name was Eric Blair, but I'm sure that she read 1984, because if you read Order of the Phoenix and you've read 1984 in your life, you will see the parallels. You will see the similarities. Order of the Phoenix is clearly about propaganda. It's about state-approved propaganda, government interference in private affairs, in her own way. And what was that woman's name in it? The evil one in that. She was like the ultimate bureaucrat. I wish I remember the name, but you all, if you either watched the movie or read it, you know who I'm talking about. She was the one who had the office, and it was all like girly and frilly and sweet, but she's this fucking nasty bureaucrat. And every time Harry was trying to tell the truth about Cedric being killed by Voldemort, the Ministry of Wizards or whatever, it was basically like the Ministry of Truth from 1984. So anyway, every time Harry was trying to warn everybody that Voldemort is here, Cedric was murdered. He didn't just die. They were denying him, and they were telling him he was lying, and that he was lying to all the students, looking for attention, all that stuff. And every time he tried to tell the truth, she would punish him, and then she would make him write, "I will not lie, I will not lie." And every time he would write it down, the pen had a spell on it where it would cut his skin, and it would write it into his skin. And his skin, of course, would heal back, but then but it was a way of like humiliating him and putting him through pain. But the most important thing about that, I don't remember if they had the line in the movie, but I remember very good in the book. Like Hermione and Ron, they tell Harry, they say, "Harry, you need to go to Dumbledore. You need to tell somebody what she's doing to you." And he says, "No, you don't understand. This is about." I forgot what he said, but he had to persevere. He had to show her that no matter what she was doing, he was going to tell the truth, and she wasn't going to break him down. Now, you tell me that's amoral. That is not amoral at all. That's like that's even better message than what happens to the character in 1984. Do you guys remember 1984? If you haven't read 1984, let me tell you real quick, simply, what happens to the main character, Winston, I think his name was, if I remember correctly. So throughout the book, Winston, in 1984, he actually is resisting Big Brother and the society with this woman that he's having sex with, who was in the chastity club. I forgot what they called that at the time. But they were resisting all of the rules. They were going to this secret apartment that they had. And what was also illegal at the time was to have like possessions of the past, or possessions of art, or things that were human. It was almost like that movie Equilibrium, which was also based off of 1984. But if you've seen that movie Equilibrium with Christian Bale, it was illegal to have artwork and old stuff or statues or anything that would evoke any emotion in you, right? Well, anyway, Winston and this girl went to this apartment, and they had all their secret stuff around, and they were rebelling for a long time. Winston eventually gets caught by this guy named Doyle. It might be Boyle, but no, Doyle. That's right, Doyle. And this guy Doyle that he's been seeing once in a while, Winston was fooled and thought that he was also someone of similar thinking and wanted to resist Big Brother, but it turned out that Doyle was watching the whole time. And when Winston does get captured by Big Brother, Doyle does this whole torture thing on him. He puts him in room 101, I think, where it's the room where your greatest fears show up. And Winston's greatest fear was rats, if I remember correctly. And that was how they broke Winston down to eventually give in to Big Brother and to give up the resistance and to give up the past and his sex and his all the things that made him feel human. So Doyle breaks him down. And what they do at the end of 1984, though, I'm pretty sure they kill him at the end. They allude to killing Winston because they don't just outright murder you, right, in this society that George Orwell wrote. They break you down until you say, Big Brother is the way, Big Brother is right. And then they kill you. But they just want to make sure that you give your consent. That you say, it is me, there is something wrong with me. It's not Big Brother, it's not the society, it's me. And then they get rid of you. You see what I'm saying? So, Harry is the antithesis. He is the Winston that persevered against that kind of authoritarianism, that tyranny. He stood against that woman, and he stood up against the ministry of bullshit. And he succeeds at the end of the book. So if that is not amoral. You can't tell me that's amoral. That's a great hero story. And how he gets all the school to resist with him. And if you look at it from that perspective, from a 1984 perspective, you will appreciate Order of the Phoenix way more than you did before. And I hope that I added that to your life if you like reading these books. I hate to admit it, but when I put down Half-Blood Prince, my mind went on a blank. I don't know why. So I'm going to ask the audience to do me a favor, and I want you to tell me why Half-Blood Prince is amoral or not amoral, because I don't know why my mind ran up a blank on it. I remember a lot of the action scenes. I guess the part of the book that I remember the most was when they were talking about Voldemort's mother. And she almost sounded like she was the product of incest. She was ugly, but she was in love with this other beautiful man. And she used like a love potion on him. And I think that was Voldemort's father, right? Yeah. And I remember all that, and I'm not really... I don't know why I draw a blank on Half-Blood Prince. I really don't, I remember the about Snape and everything, but I don't know. Maybe Half-Blood Prince didn't have the same impact on me as the 5 books before that. And Deathly Hallows, definitely for me, Deathly Hallows topped Half-Blood Prince, and it kind of overshadowed. I don't know, man. I might have to go back to Half-Blood Prince one day just to read it again. It's going over my head. I'm fucking pissed off that I couldn't think of a good answer for that one. But I put for Deathly Hallows. Deathly Hallows is just basically the totality of all the experiences that the characters have. Them facing the darkness and overcoming things. Even we go down to little characters like Neville, right? You could tell that J.K. Rowling planned Neville to have an evolution even from the very first book, right? When in book number 1, when they're going to go and do what they have to do, they have to go out of Hogwarts and go after the Sorcerer's Stone. The school kept the Gryffindors kept getting in trouble and losing points. And Neville stands up to Harry, Hermione, and Ron, and he says, I won't let you hurt the Gryffindors anymore. I'm going to stop you from going, even if you... And then that's when Hermione puts her paralyzing spell on him, and he falls back. And then Dumbledore at the end gives him credit first. Sometimes a good friend is one that stands up to his own friends and tells them what's wrong or whatever. But he stood up to his own friends, right? So even from book 1, right, J.K. Rowling planned even a small character like Neville to have his own evolutionary arc, right? And I don't mean evolutionary in the scientific bullshit terms like, oh, look, he's a platypus with a small dick, and now he's a rhinoceros with a big dick. He evolved. No, I'm just talking about literature here, okay? Relax. So by Deathly Hallows, Neville becomes like this, I don't know, not a badass, but he just changes, right? He even cuts the head off of the snake of Voldemort, and He just changes for the better. So then I put here also Ron becomes honor, and Hermione from intelligence to wisdom. So it's not now she's not just the character of knowing everything in the book. She's a character of wisdom, and as she gets older, she humbles herself just a little bit more. And Ron, when I say Ron is honor now, he still has loyalty, but he evolved to honor also, because do you remember in Deathly Hallows where they had the Horcrux, and the Horcrux, it was making, if you had this thing on your necklace, right, the Horcrux, it would bring out the worst of you. So they would have to take turns. Harry, Ron, Hermione, they would have to take turns and wear it. But Ron was wearing it too long, and it was bringing out the worst of him, of envy, jealousy, and insecurity, because he was looking at Harry, and Harry had all this popularity, and he was worried that Harry was trying to steal Hermione from him, which he wasn't. So they get into a dispute in Deathly Hallows, and then Ron runs away, right? And thankfully, Dumbledore gave him something that made him find his way back to his friends. But he becomes more honorable, I would say. He becomes a very honorable character. And then Harry. Lastly, Harry now becomes sacrifice. Now, some Christians might say that sounds like you're being what's the word, heretical, or you're like maybe it's like a analogy to Jesus. No, I mean sacrifice is Jesus. Yes, in the religious terms, Jesus' sacrifice was the ultimate sacrifice, right? But in daily life and life in general, sacrifice is not a rare thing. A lot of people, we all have sacrifices that we make daily in our lives, or sacrifices that people make in wars, or all these kinds of things. So Harry becomes the idea of sacrifice. He goes from his duty leads him, the duty that I said that he had in the beginning leads him to sacrifice, right? Now, in Deathly Hallows, he actually dies, but he comes back to life. But he died because that's what he had to do. Now, I guess maybe you could say maybe a Christian might not like that because the only guy who could come back is Jesus. But you got to remember, this is fiction, okay? And this fiction does this kind of stuff all the time. That's it. And it could even make you talk about the religious aspect of it. But you see, the point is, though, if you don't read it, then you don't have something to talk about. And you know, I wanted to go over one other thing. Like I was telling you before that the movies, they cut out a lot from the books. I could tell you why this book is not amoral just from a Deathly Hallows passage. I don't remember what page or what chapter it was, but there's a part where there's this character named Lupin who is a half man, half werewolf. He turns to werewolf when the moon is full, and he has he falls in love with this character. God damn, what is her name? God, somebody help me out here. What is? Well, anyway, he falls in love with the one of the wizard characters in this, and she gets pregnant, and she's gonna have his baby, right? So there's a part where Harry and his group are getting ready to journey off and find the other Horcruxes of Voldemort, so they could destroy his immortality and stop him. Lupin is talking to Harry, and he's saying, Harry, I want to go with you and Hermione and Ron on your journey. You need me. I want to be there. And Harry was telling him, like, Lupin, you're going to have a baby boy or girl. I think he has a son at the end. But he says, your wife, your girl is pregnant. She's going to have... God, guys, what was her name? I love this character, too. I feel so stupid. I don't know why I'm... things are going over my head today. But I love this character. It starts with a T. I'm pretty sure it starts with a T. And I'm going to sneeze. But anyway, there's this great section where Lupin and Harry, they have this where they're really going at it with each other, right? And Lupin Lupin he doesn't want to deal with it, and he's afraid that his baby is going to be a monster like him, like a wolf or wolf, half man, whatever. And he thinks maybe it's better off that the baby doesn't know who I am. And Harry fucking it shows you what kind of man he becomes here. I love this. He tells Lupin basically, no man, you gotta be a father. You gotta be there for that baby. You better not fucking go with us. Or I mean, I don't. This isn't the exact word he used, but he said, and if you leave your baby and you leave your girl like that, you're a fucking loser. I mean, he was basically saying that to him, and it was so powerful the way J.K. Rowling wrote that scene, and I was like, I loved every moment of that argument, and I'm still disappointed to this day that they didn't add that in the movie. I really am. I think that would have been some great acting, and it really would have. I think it would have put the Deathly Hallows movies a bar higher than they were, and put them in a whole different kind of mature level. And a few other scenes like that should have been in there. And secondly, so basically right there it was talking about fatherhood and parenting. That is not amoral. Right there, J.K. took a stance that the father should be there. You know, like Harry's parents had no choice. His parents were killed. But Lupin had a choice. Stay there. Stay with your girl and be there for your son. Now, of course, spoiler alert if you haven't read it or you haven't even watched the movie still, which I get because I didn't do it for a long time either. I'm not judging if that's the case. But Lupin and his wife, they ended up dead. They die in the battle at the end, and it's like that hit me so hard it hit me really hard in the book actually. The way J.K. Rowling wrote it, it made me sad in the movie, but the way they treated Lupin and his love's death, it was a little quick, and because there were so many other deaths too. And yes, but J.K. Rowling really put a lot of time into that build up, and it hit me hard when I first read that. It really did, and I still remember that very clearly to this day. I love what she did with that. You know, I wish they didn't die though. I think that I still wish they survived, or at least the wife survived, and Lupin died in battle, but she really went for the full like ba-boom, you know. So, lastly, one other thing that I want to say about all of this. Why am I such a Harry Potter fan? Why did I love the books? Why did I like the movies and stuff? And I certainly don't look like the type of guy who would be into this stuff. But I am. I know if it's a good story, it's a damn good story. And it got me into other forms of reading as well. But I want to say why I respect J.K. Rowling as a writer. Because I was watching a documentary one time about her, and you know, like these people today that write books or make the movies, you know, there's some kind of agenda, and not always the same agenda, but everybody now, they got their agendas and stuff. And look, if you want in the comments, you could argue that maybe she had some kind of agenda that I'm not going to talk about or I don't know about. But this, I wish I could tell you which documentary it was. I have it on somewhere. But she said that she wanted boys and girls to become avid readers. She wanted to inspire people to be readers. I love that. Like that stuck with me about her. Like she didn't, you know, she didn't just say, I just want the girls to read. I just want them to be good readers. They're disadvantaged and the boys get everything. She said she wanted all children to read and to become intelligent. I think that's noble. I think that's decent. And I think that's honorable. In today's times, someone would be picking either side. No offense, but it would always be the woman or the girls. Like the girls, we're going to give the girls everything and forget about the boys, right? Well, that wasn't J.K. Rowling. She wanted all of the children to benefit from her imagination and her creativity. And she did. And she did it. And I think Harry Potter is a great way to unite the imagination, to ignite the imagination as well. And when she was a kid, when she was her neighbors, they said that when she was a child, her neighbors who were named the Potters, I think that's how she came up with the name Harry Potter. She based it off of her neighbors, if I remember right. They said she was so imaginative as a little girl and stuff. So that was her way for life, and she shared that energy with all the other young people, all the children. And I think that was a great thing that she did. And people today who fucking rag on her, it's because you're ignorant, or it's because you never read the books, and or it's also a mix of you're jealous and you can't stand somebody who's successful, and they were successful by helping and benefiting other people. And I don't care what you're going to say. Oh, you're don't defend the rich. I'm not defending her because she's got money. I could give two shits about all the money she made from that. Forget about that for a second, okay? And that's great. But I'm saying what she accomplished by getting all those children to read books, right? That's a huge accomplishment, man. When I was a kid, you couldn't get me to read shit. Even in high school, I had trouble reading and stuff, you know? I got more into reading in college thanks to one good professor. But if I didn't get that professor, I still would have been not into reading. But that one professor got me into reading, and it was a whole thing from there. You know, so like that professor, J.K. Rowling, she set a way for a lot of people to become readers and think a certain way. So, yeah, I will defend her. And I will say to those of you who wish her harm, or to anybody who has a problem with her political beliefs, go fuck yourself. Just saying, go fuck yourself. You can't handle people with different beliefs. You can't even handle somebody like that who did so much good for children. Who the fuck are you? So, alright, I'm going to stop there before I get way too into that. But if you came this far, and thank you for listening, and please tell me your thoughts in the comments. And if you're a Harry Potter fan and you're going to tell me, oh, gee, man, you're full of shit, it's this, and that, go ahead, man. Let's talk about it. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe, guys, and have a nice day.